The history of each country is unique. The past has great consequence in the present, and United States is not the exception. Everything is a chain of events where great movements, economic and social problems that arose as a result of great wars. The war in Vietnam marked a part of the history of Americans, not only for what it meant to have lost it, becoming in the Vietnam syndrome, but marking the birth of the hippie movement. Now we will show the importance of the social movements of the 16th, the Watergate scandal in the 70s, and the Vietnam War based on the documents and films recommended for this project.
Different revolutionary groups emerged in search of true black emancipation. Many of them, like Martin Luther King, sought in a pacifist to claim their rights. However, figures like Malcolm X thought of a different way. Malcolm X was an African American Muslim minister and human rights activist. To his admirers, he was an advocate for the rights of blacks, a man who denounced the police abuse of white abuse and the crimes against black Americans. However, Malcolm X had a lot of detractors that accused him of inciting racism and violence. At the age of 4, he suffered the cruelty of racism when his house was burned by Ku Klux Klan, an organization composed of racist whites who defended, through violence, the supremacy and domination of whites over other races. He retired from school in the 8th grade, and like many other youths in the black ghettos, was caught by crime networks, ending up in prison. In prison, he was influenced by the ideas of black Muslims. Malcolm X became a member of the Nation of Islam. He served as the public face of the controversial group for a dozen years. By the beginning of the 1960s, African Americans made a national mobilization against the laws of segregation and racism and justice, now in history as the Civil Rights Movement, organized by the Conference of Christian Leaders of the South, whose maximum leader was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The Nation of Islam, led by Aliyah Muhammad, refused to participate in the civil rights movement because it believed that the movement only proposed racial integration with whites. Malcolm X didn't share this position, which generated a confrontation with Muhammad being suspended from the organization at the end of 1963. Expressing many regrets about his time with them, Malcolm finally repudiated the Nation of Islam. Time after, he founded Muslim Mosque and the Organization of Afro-American Unity. He continued to emphasize Pan-Africanism, black self-determination, and black self-defense. The interethnic and interracial experiences of Malcolm during his travels around the world, especially in African and Arab countries, allow him to transfer his thinking about the white devil to suggest that the true enemy of the black people were the dominant white classes, owners of wealth, and holders of racist and imperialist capitalist power. Malcolm felt that it was necessary to promote solidarity and alliances among the black and white oppressed classes against their common oppressors and exploiters. But in February 1965, he was assassinated by 3 members of the Nation of Islam. However, his thinking was indispensable for many blacks who believed in his thinking to continue fighting for their rights. Among the most popular, we found the Black Panthers. It was a radical party founded in 1966 by Bobby Seale and Wayne Newton in Oakland, California, whose mission was to achieve justice and autonomy of subjugated peoples and improve their quality of life through economic, political, and social empowerment. As were the Black Panther Party, or BPP, originally the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, was a revolutionary black nationalist and socialist organization active in the United States from 1966 until 1982. The programmatic principles of the Black Panthers, based on 10 points of social, economical, and political claims, with a complex mix of influences from Marxism and Maoism to principles of self-defense and struggle against class and racial exclusion, also of self-defense of minority communities against the U.S. government.
At the same time, there was the hippie movement. So, what's that? It born because of people rejecting Vietnam War. They started to take streets and ask the government to take their men back and to finish that empty war. They were dying just because. There was no place for discrimination, so black people was involved also. In Forrest Gump movie, we can notice this inclusion.
Jenny and me was just like peas and carrots again. She showed me around and even introduced me to some of her new friends.
Shut that blonde man and get your white ass away from that window.
It was a big movement around the world. It was youth speech. It was a revolution in all senses. Racial, sexual, even fashion. Because they left the tie and skirts and started to be naked or wear colorful clothes. But why? Okay, the drugs appeared and their lives started to change. The illusion that those substances made in their minds inspired the colors and also the relaxed life. The movement continued for some years. There were famous singers as Lennon and Hendrix, their voices and idols for them. And of course, the famous Woodstock concert as a big message for peace and love. Finally, those drugs took place in youth mind. They lost control of everything. They don't even know what was happening in the government.
The Watergate Scandal. At 70's, United States President Richard Nixon had to resign to his job because of his relation with the Watergate scandal. But what did happen? Well, let's check a little part of Forrest Gump movie that shows us what this scandal really about is.
Yeah, sir, you might want to send a maintenance man over to that office across the way. The lights are off and they must be looking for a fuse box or something because them flashlights, they're keeping me awake. Thank you. Good night.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president.
As you can realize, 5 burglars broke into Democratic National Committee's offices in the Watergate complex. Those people had wiretapping and phone equipment to spy on all the calls and on all the conversations of this party when they were caught. All of those men were related with Richard Nixon, as Howard Stern claimed. After the Watergate burglars were caught, Nixon secretly pledged to give them executive clemency if they were imprisoned. After that, Richard Nixon had to resign, and trust in government got down in all people of United States, and that's why in the 70's people felt scared and paranoid in their country.